Okay. Hello, good people. You have to let me know if you are able to hear me and what the sound is like. I'm just gonna jump onto YouTube and double check, see how things are looking from my mobile device. But if you would just place in the chat what you're hearing, what you're seeing, that would be awesome. I'm gonna mute myself because my own voice is in my ear and it's like too much. Okay, got it. Cool. ATB, welcome. Awesome to have you. Love it. Let me share screen a different way. There we go. Cool. Awesome. So glad you all are here. Okay. She hears me. Great. Allison says she happened to see the live notification. Hope you're well. Nice to have you, Allison. Hoping you're well too. Kristen Day is here. Hello. Hello, Marie Jasso and Cody and Red Cupid Bow Lips. Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, we're off to the races then. I love it. Let me grab a link that I want to have on hand to share with you guys for when we get there. Hey, Martha. Great to have you. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, well, this is going to be fun. I love doing these particular kinds of broadcasts where we're getting the opportunity to really talk about some of the shifts and changes that are happening, yes, astrologically, but then how those things impact our lives. And today in particular, we're going to talk about probably one of the greatest events of our lifetime, the movement of Pluto into Aquarius. This is the first time that Pluto has been in Aquarius since 1777 and 1776. Pluto will be in Aquarius for a 20-year stay. And like I mentioned in the flyer for this on YouTube, that this is the kind of moment that will be momentous, impactful, life-changing. The last time Pluto was in Aquarius, and for at least the Americans, we had the American Revolution, and that was very life-changing for this country. So we're going to have some more updates similar to this coming up soon because I want to do another one about Uranus. But today we are really going to focus in and drill down with Pluto because Pluto is kind of the star of the show as we move into this new year. So if you're just joining, welcome. I'm really happy you're here. If you're willing to give this content a thumbs up, that'd be amazing. Helps it circulate in the algorithm and get to people who may need it. My name is Kay Moon, and I am a Western astrologer. And we are going to work together today like this. I'm going to some information open up some information about Pluto itself and what it represents. We're going to talk about the signs that are being most impacted by this change. So, if you need a copy of your charts, you can see which houses are governed by these signs. You can definitely pick one up over at kmoonastro.com. There is a place right at the top where you can get access to a birth chart, a natal chart, and that will allow you to follow along in your own chart and start to make some of your own deductions about, just what's happening and why it's happening in your own life. So I'll just place that link to get your own natal chart in the chat. If you'd like to do that, I have a widget on my website from a website called astro-charts.com. And that widget will allow you to get a copy of your chart. Now, astro-charts.com does sell like reports. I don't make those reports. They make those reports. So if you'd like to get a report, you can go ahead and do that. Um, but just know that, like I don't get a commission for that or anything. It would take you off of my website, but you can definitely get your own birth chart and follow along. I highly recommend it. Kylie, awesome to see you. Um, I love that you are here. So, we're going to start by talking about Pluto and what it represents. We will get into the signs that will be most impacted by Pluto's movement into Capricorn, because there's four of them, actually, five of them. And those five will certainly experience some of the greatest impact, but because all of us have those five signs governing at least one area of our chart, you'll be able to look at, well, which area of life is having this change take place and know what kind of change is happening. We're going to talk about emotionally some of the themes that this is going to bring up for all of us because it's a big deal emotionally. That I'm sure you have noticed, just as I have, tremendous amounts of upheaval and unrest. Um, for individuals, absolutely. But then, in addition to that, we'll talk a little bit about some of the socio-political, cultural kind of changes that are unfolding at this time that can all be linked back to Pluto and Pluto's movement and what Pluto is inviting us to do. So, then we will close out by having a look together at Pluto through the 12 signs and what it is that Pluto will bring for you based on your rising sign and your sun sign to make it just a little bit more personal. So give me a thumbs up if you're already noticing, something's afoot. Give me a thumbs up in the chat. Let me know, like, yeah, I'm seeing change, or I'm seeing a lot of newness or upheaval or transition. Let me know in the chat what you guys are seeing with regard to this moment of major transition for all of us. I'd love to hear, just what you all are noticing as students of the world, students of astrology, what you're seeing. Let's go ahead and dive in with some of what Pluto itself represents. And yes, Kylie, you are correct. Happy birthday, Aquarius. Always great to have the Aquas in the house. Okay, so tomorrow is you guys' new moon. So if you haven't already watched it, have a look at the Aquarius new moon energy updates. I published those about a week ago, so it is available for you to tune into. Let's see. Uh, yeah, I'm seeing some thumbs up from Flower, from ATB, from Cody, Crystal Marie. So sorry you lost a pet. Mel C is noticing lots of energy, upheaval, and surprise. Martha says she feels like 2023 really set the stage. It did. It really did with Pluto at those final degrees of Capricorn. So much growth and change. That's absolutely what it was supposed to do. A lot of change, Fiona says. Biggest shift I've seen in years, to be fair. Absolutely. Maureen says last night was crazy energy. For me, it's definitely been the last several nights. I've had to like do things to make sure I could sleep. Um, Cody lost loved ones recently. I'm very sorry to hear that. Pauline says so many big changes in different areas. And we'll talk about those areas shortly here. Maureen and Melusine give me that thumbs up. And Melusine says crazy upheaval career wise. Yeah. And Jennifer H., his mom, lost a pet as well. I'm so sorry for the losses. This is definitely a topic and a theme with Pluto. So glad you all are all here and we can kind of really start to understand the purpose, the divine purpose in this energy together today so that hopefully it gives you some validation for your journey and what's unfolding, some empowerment for your choices so that you understand you're not victim to any of the circumstances unfolding at this time, and some revelation about your choices so that you can see how much choice you really do have despite some of the challenges that are unfolding at this time. So, welcome in, everyone. It's great to have you. Get your notes ready. Let's go ahead and talk about Pluto itself. So, Pluto is the planet. I think NASA demoted it to a non-planet status, but for reasons I won't go into here, as astrologers, we definitely still use it as a planet. It's a much longer conversation that I've talked about in Star School with some of the Star Schoolers. Um, but Pluto really governs in neutrality, power, control. It governs transformation and shape shifting and the resurrection cycle, an ending or a death, integration and learning, and new beginning or rebirth. Pluto governs our power to go from one shape or state to another. And so when Pluto comes along in a house, approaching a planet in your natal chart, or moves into a new sign, what we get is that entire cycle beginning to unfold. Now, thankfully, Pluto does move pretty slow. Pluto takes 248 years, Earth years, to get around the astrological wheel. And in those 248 years, uh, a moment when Pluto is changing signs may take about 3-ish years, I've seen, to settle us, to have us adjust, because where Pluto goes, power flows and follows. And so during our Pluto and Capricorn years, we certainly saw power being in the hands of all things Capricornian, which I'll break down what that means in a minute. And now that Pluto is moving into Aquarius, we're seeing power land in the hands of all things Aquarian. So power isn't necessarily a bad thing. Anything can be light or shadow, and power can be expressed in light and shadow as well. Um, Pluto also is very connected to sex, sexuality, and the alchemical process of sexual union, where two become one and sometimes make a third. We also get secrets in the shadow, and secrets aren't always bad, but they can be when they are used for manipulation and controlling others, taking away their free will. We also have Pluto in connection with manipulation, like I said, and control, certainly fear and shame, some of our richer core human emotions, or more primal human emotions. And Pluto and its ruling sign, Scorpio, also deal with what we call other people's money, credit, debt, taxes, and loans. So, money you owe, but also lottery winnings, grants, inheritances, and gifted money. This is the kind of money that can kind of land on you without you having to place much effort. Every time Pluto changes signs, we do have some sort of showdown with power and an invitation to pick up power in a new area of life. So I know some people have already jumped in the chat and mentioned they have seen some changes with regard to one of the core Plutonian themes, which is death or endings. But I mentioned several other things sexuality, secrets, control, manipulation, fear, other people's money, right? Pluto deals in all of these areas as well. Have you guys noticed any changes with regard to these things too? Let me know in the chat if any of these other areas have jumped out in your life as areas for change. Okay. Um, And thank you, Kylie, for letting people know where to find me. Um, and thank you for linking the private list. I really appreciate that. I'm going to just pause and give you a different link, Kylie. I'm going to link this below the video for anyone who is watching live. That link right there is a shortened link that takes you to my private list. When you do sign up for my private list, you will get immediately a link to or a code for 20% off your first 1 hour reading if you're new. And so if you would like to chit chat with me about this stuff, you can always do that. Just, I'm about you saving money. I'm about saving money. So if you would like to save some money, you can get that code 20% off your first 1 hour reading just by jumping on the private list. Getting on that list is free. And that's my thank you to you. But so Flower says inheritance. And Kylie, if you could use that link going forward, that would be fabulous. Inheritance, I love that. Kristen Day says they're giving themselves a big kick in the butt and doing a 180. Ooh, yeah, that's definitely what it is for a lot of us. Duchess says yes. Crystal Marie says family farm is being passed down to the next generation. Absolutely. Deep emotional realizations, 100%. Absolutely, Melusine. Applying a lot of breath work for release. Very smart use of the tension that can come up with some of these themes to do some breath work. Good on you. So proud of you guys. You guys are such an evolved group. I love my subscribers. So there are 5 signs in particular that are going to be most impacted by Pluto's movement into Aquarius. I'm going to ask you guys which signs you think they are. Put in the chat if you know which signs they are. I'm going to just pull up the Aquarius new moon chart so I can show you visually which signs they are as well. I love it that you guys like to participate with me. That always makes the lives more fun and the conversation more enriching. It also really helps validate other people's experience and lets them know that they aren't alone. So even if you're coming along and you're watching this after the live broadcast, being able to just look in the chat and see, oh yeah, somebody else is going through exactly what I'm going through can help you really understand that you're, first of all, you're not alone. And second of all, um, you know, you have a lot of choices as well. You can do breath work if it's going to help you. Um, you can get life moving in rapid speed if you're feeling stuck, like Pauline says. So Kylie says she's working for longer. She'll be in and out, no problem. So if you're in a listen only mode, catching the podcast later, Kylie is our moderator. Um, hmm. Let's see. Okay, so Dee Dee says she believes it's Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, and Scorpio. Flower says Leo and Aquarius. Mari says, I wouldn't be surprised if it's Leo. Hello, Shika from Canada and East Germany. Maureen guesses it's air signs, and Duchess says Aquarius and Pisces. Yeah, you guys are all correct in different ways. So I'm going to go through them one by one. So this is the new moon, which is taking place tomorrow, February 9th at 5:58 p.m. Pluto jumped into Aquarius last month in January and is still, because Pluto moves slow enough, right at that 0 degree mark of Aquarius here. So those of you who said Aquarius are absolutely correct. Pluto is fostering major change for the Aquarians. We also have some other guesses here. We have Jennifer H. say Scorpio, Taurus, Aquarius, and Libra. Absolutely. Kristen Day also echoes Scorpio, and Allison Scoff fixed signs. You guys are covering the whole zodiac. I love it. And in many cases, you're absolutely correct. There's five core signs who are going to feel this tremendously, but then there's impact and blowback. There's a secondary group of folks who are going to get a ton of additional insights as well. If you guys have not already liked the video on the way in the chat and you're liking this already, then definitely hit that like button for me. Let's talk about our Aquarius people first, since Pluto has jumped into your sign for the next 20 years. For our Aquarius folk, we have a new beginning opening up for you. We have something that is going to feel a bit like a challenge, a confrontation, or a showdown with picking up your power. And so Pluto jumping into Aquarius is opening up for you a new level of personal empowerment when it comes to the area of life or the house in your chart where your sun sits. Okay. Also correct. Some people guessed Leo, the opposing sign, and you guys are right too. Those of you who said, I think it'll impact Leo a lot, you're 100% correct. The exact opposite sign of Aquarius is also receiving that same influence. It is said that the outer planets um, impact the outer planets impact not just the sign they're traveling through, but the opposing sign simultaneously. And so Leo energy will experience also a similar level of deep personal empowerment, where Aquarius is going to have it in their identity sector. Leonine people will have it in their relationship sector. Okay. So something to remember there. Other folks who will be highly impacted by Pluto's movement into Aquarius, Capricorn, you are seeing the ending of Pluto in your sign since 2008. Pluto's been here taking you on a journey of personal transformation and empowerment in your identity sector, who you are. And those changes have finally come to culmination and completion. You can breathe a sigh of relief if Pluto in Capricorn since 2008 has been distressing. But I think for most of you, you might have found it very empowering, especially in these last several years as a Capricorn. And just as I was saying with Aquarius and Leo, the opposing sign is also receiving a tremendous transformation as well. So, for my Cancer folks and Cancer rising people, you too are receiving the completion of an evolutionary change, shapeshift, and transformation with regard to your relationship sector. Okay. So we've got Aquarius, Leo, Capricorn, and Cancer, four signs that are heavily impacted by this. Yeah. Dee Dee says she's been feeling it, especially with people pleasing. It has to stop 100%. Cancer rising there with Cody Rohan. Hello, Cody. And a Capstellium Maison Russe. Wonderful to have you all. Hey, Cat Bond. Great to have you. Okay. And the fifth sign that is really getting heavily impacted by this is the sign that Pluto governs, and that is Scorpio. And so, Scorpio, if things have felt really tense for you, like a pressure is on you from your external world that you have to step up, that you have to change, that you need to exercise your power in some new ways in varying areas of life, this is why, because your ruling planet is shifting into bringing the conditioned energy it's working with. It's bringing a different kind of conditioning, a different frequency to your lives. And so, whereas during the Capricorn years for you, Scorpio, the Capricorn years since 2008 were about building foundation and structure. really living into legacy and tradition and kind of doing the right things, so to speak. Your Aquarian years are going to start to be about freedom and recognizing that there are no rules, but the rules that you make. Yeah. Um, so big changes for those five signs. But I want to give a shout out to some folks that uh, definitely gave some right answers here in the chat. I would say that these right answers are folks who are experiencing change in the secondary most impactful way. The primary impact will definitely be with those five signs that I just mentioned. But second most impacted are going to be the following signs. And if you're resonating with this and you're feeling some of this take place in your life and you're Aquarius, Leo, Cancer, Capricorn, let us know in the chat or in the comments, like, what are you experiencing? Help some other people understand what this means and how it can be lived at this time. Secondary shout outs go to, let's see, who named it in the chat? Allison Scoff said all of the fixed signs, and she is absolutely right. Wonderful and astute observation there. So, fixed signs are the signs of the zodiac that are Aquarius and Leo, 100%. We talked about those. We talked about Scorpio. And somebody else also mentioned, actually, several people mentioned Taurus. Taurus is the fourth of the fixed signs, the one that we haven't talked about yet. Taurus is also experiencing tremendous transformation, but for a different reason. Um, because Uranus and Jupiter are here, we're going to have a different broadcast about that. But those of you who said Taurus are absolutely correct. I think Jennifer H said that. And Dee Dee said that. Absolutely. All of the fixed signs, definitely correct. And then there's another group that's experiencing, I would say, secondary most impact. And who was correct on that? Maureen M. Maureen said all of the air signs. So certainly Aquarius, because Pluto has landed here. But when you have major impact to one element or one mode, all of the linked signs in that element or in that mode are also impacted. So absolutely Aquarius, absolutely Gemini, major impact in your life in the world of transformation, and certainly Libra as well. And a new beginning is upon you. A death is necessary first. It's really important to keep in mind that we can't necessarily get pregnant and give birth at the exact same time. We need to wrap up one process fully before we can jump into the new one. And since Pluto works in triplicate, death and ending, integration and learning, rebirth and resurrection, we are moving through that cycle in some area of our life. And like I said, when we get to the end of this broadcast, I will walk you through all 12 signs so that you can see it, okay, for yourself in your own life. So let's see. Um, hey, Hope Glitterati. Great to have you. I'm going to make sure Hope Glitterati, Kylie, and Allison, where are my mods here? And Kat Bond. If you guys want to share the private list link, there it is. For those of you just joining, welcome. I love a new face in this place. Thank you for joining. We have that private list is linked to my private astrological list. It's free. I send updates to them first. And when you join, I have for your first reading with me a coupon code for 20% off your first 1 hour reading. So you can join and get that for free. Let's see. Awesome. So you guys are starting to feel it. Duchess says Moon and Venus in Scorpio, Virgo Sun rising. Yes, and likewise, the earth signs are going to feel a sense of difference. So Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo, the earth signs here, because Pluto is leaving the earth element as he departs Capricorn, there will be a shift or a closing out of a cycle for Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo, and there will be an opening up of a new energy for Aquarius, Gemini, and Libra. Absolutely. Total life transformation started with a new job offer, Lemurian Earth Angel Starseed. Congratulations. I love that. Crystal Marie says she's a Leo sun. Very nice. Big changes for Leos. And Maison Russe went through an ego death heavily in December. Yeah, for many of us, this has been a very humbling time. We're going to talk about some of the emotional impacts here in a moment. Samantha says, I have been dying so many times since December. Oh, so that's going to die. Okay, yes, you will stop feeling like you're dying, Samantha. You will stop that. Flower says, I feel blessed to be able to be with my parents as they transition in their end of life journey. Mom's an Aquarius and dad's a Scorpio, and I'm a Leo. That is beautiful. I'm really glad you're able to be with them as well. So, one of the things that we need to talk about if we are going to talk about uh, some of this stuff is like, what do these signs represent, right? Because the changes are going to deal with the categories that I'm about to list that are affiliated with these signs. So for Capricorn, we have definitely an ending energy, but Capricorn specifically governs work. So many of you are mentioned you're changing jobs, you got a new job, you're looking for a job. I've been reading for tons of people who are in the midst of some sort of job or career transition, moving from this to that. That is all because of Pluto's departure from Capricorn, the sign that governs work for us. It also governs structure, traditions, the tried and true, and institutions. With power leaving this area, we're seeing collectively transformation and change in the world of work, in the world of our traditions, in the world of what's tried and true for us and our institutions. Linked sign Cancer specifically deals with family, women, motherhood, emotions, and sports teams like athletic teams and small teams that almost function like a family unit. With Pluto departing the opposing sign of Capricorn, for the Cancerians, you may notice endings, specifically of collaborative partnership nature. For the Cancerian folks, you may notice changes and endings with regard to those people or circumstances in your life. Again, family, women, motherhood, emotions and emotional patterns, teams. There is a new beginning energy for Aquarius and Leo. Aquarius specifically represents freedom, technology, the quantum field, quantum computing, quantum thinking, quantum healing. It governs the new and the next. It governs collectives and unions. And so, as I mentioned, where Pluto goes, power flows and follows. We're certainly seeing tremendous conversation about new things emerging in the realm of freedom and the rights of individuals to work from home, have certain kinds of careers over their bodies in particular ways. Quantum computing, AI, and technology, more freedom and more rights in the hands of unions, right? All of this is Pluto and Aquarius. Over here for Leo, Leo specifically deals with our children, our inner child, and the children that we birth, the children of the world. Creativity, sovereignty, and monarchies. Creative authority. Because we have this Pluto movement into the opposing sign, we're going to see a shakeup in the assemblage, the way we deal with certainly the rights of children, what rights children have and don't have, our creativity and creative authority and the way we deal with our own inner child, sovereignty and monarchies. Certainly, just this year, we saw a changing of the guard in two European monarchies, and that's just the European ones, and our creative authority, right? And so we're seeing artists in many ways begin to step up and really own their work product in ways they may not have before. I think that's a little bit of a prediction as well. We just saw one of the highest grossing female rap artists, I think her name's Meg the Stallion, gain the rights over her creative work product in a deal that hasn't been brokered before. So I think we're going to start to see a lot more of that for our artists and our creatives. Okay. So those are some of the themes that will be highlighted for Scorpio. Scorpio, again, like I said, deals with sex, sexuality, this other people's money concept, money owed and money given. We're going to start to see some real shifts since Scorpio also governs secrets. The year has certainly started off with a level of explosive expose on behind closed door conversations and goings ons that are now being revealed to the public as Aquarius governs the internet and Pluto has arrived. Like, let me tell y'all what these people have been doing on the internet that you didn't know. Let me expose it for you. If you missed it, this is what you missed. And we're only at the beginning of February. Like, it already feels like we should be in July with the amount of activity. But we're going to continue to see more of that this year and next year as Pluto settles into Aquarius. The scorpionic energy that I was mentioning, we're going to see some changes in the world of sex and sexuality, maybe even some of the rights of people who do sex work, changes to legislation around human sex trafficking. We'll see some shifts when it comes to um, the way people kind of understand human sexuality and some shifts in what we agree collectively is permissible and what is taboo. We will start to see some changes in that conversation collectively as well as Pluto moves into the sign of freedom and creates a lot of liberation here for Scorpio. Um, let's see, Scorpio also deals with secrets. Like I said, okay, secrets getting exposed, transformation and shape shifting other people's money. So I think we'll also see some new laws and regulation around inheritances, certainly around taxes. We're already seeing a lot of that conversation around taxes show up here in the United States. So it's an exciting time where these changes that we're starting to see unfold are meant to help us quantum leap into the new, the next, using technology to our advantage, coming into greater freedom in the areas that I've just mentioned, closing out cycles that are part of old mindset, old ideology, old paradigm, tradition, and asking ourselves, well, what if I thought about this in a new way? What if there was a new opportunity, a new way to work on this? Okay. So let me come back in the chat. I'm curious what you guys are seeing. Dee Dee says her entire identity is getting a makeover. Absolutely. I could see that. Kat says, there's so much change. Rain says, and I find myself being a mother to many that aren't mine lately. Yep, absolutely. This is rad. Allison says, interesting that a number of members of the royal family are facing health journeys right now. I agree. It's very interesting. Martin says, about a few weeks ago was utter devastating turmoil, but growth. 2023 was massive for relationship. Absolutely. So Martin says, short version is family. I have answers. I finally have answers to my deepest wounding. Very good. Very good. And this is all meant to empower you, this upheaval. It's meant to help us pick up some new power. So if you're enjoying this conversation so far and you just joined, welcome. Definitely hit that like button. Helps the content circulate. If you're listening to the recording, drop in the comments what you're experiencing. Love to see some good comments from folks, and it helps everyone else understand, like, oh, that's what this is for me. It can provide some validation and clarity for some folks. Just try to keep it positive if you can. Um, let's talk about emotionally. And this is where you might want to take some notes. And then we're going to get into the fun stuff. We're going to talk about collectively, some of the themes we're seeing. I've got some really beautiful like news stories that I've like snagged from social media just for this conversation. And then we'll close out with Pluto in Aquarius for all of the 12 signs. So emotionally, one of the things that's really important for us to pay attention to, since the core of Pluto's energy is power, when we talk about power, we need to understand it in its neutrality first, because we throw this word around in terms of self-empowerment or being empowered, or abuses of power. We have these catchphrases around the word power without really understanding what the word itself means. If we're going to talk about power, we need to have a working definition. And in all neutrality, power is simply this: it is the ability to do something. Are you able? Do you have the ability to work with whatever the situation is? And it's the capacity to act. It is when a situation calls for something to be done, do you have the capacity to do what needs to be done and the ability? You might at some times have the capacity to do something financially, but not the ability to do it because of fear. You might have the ability to take certain actions in your family, but not have the capacity to do it because of shame, right? And so, ability and capacity to enact our will on the world, that's all that Pluto or power is about. It's just ability to do, capacity to act. But honestly, we find ourselves in a precarious relationship with that word power in our humanity at this time on Earth, because we want to talk about empowerment. We like the idea of people being personally empowered, but the minute people start to, especially in relationship, utilize their power to act on the world, to create what they want to experience, we immediately go into story about how they must be a narcissist. There's something wrong with that person. They don't want to give me what I want to have. They're a narcissist. Likewise, we also throw around very casually this term around empowerment, and we love the idea of women being empowered. We love the idea of children being empowered. We love the idea of unions being empowered. But the minute people start to exercise their ability to change their life or their capacity to act on the desires of their heart, we go, I don't know if you should do it that way. You're stepping on too many toes. And so we have to get to a place collectively where our exercising of our power doesn't scare us because of who we might break connection with, but actually empowers us to see who we could deepen connection with. And when we see other people acting on their power in their lives, we don't go into tailspin making up stories that somehow them acting on their power neutralizes, negates, or takes away ours. That's false, right? It's a cognitive distortion. And so when we're witnessing other people acting on their power in their lives, it's our opportunity to say, if I feel a type of way about this, maybe there's something for me to learn about how I could be using my power in my life. It's an opportunity to open to deeper power. Yeah. If we're going to have a conversation about power, we also have to be willing to have a conversation about the big three that Pluto governs, and that is fear, anger, and shame. These three emotions are a wonderful compass for us. They give us so much information because fear tells us where we've created a story about something external to us being bigger than us and potentially having the ability to control us. We tend to run away from what we fear. Anger informs us about where a boundary in our life has been crossed, whether we knew it was a boundary or we only discovered it was recently, after it was just crossed, right? And shame. Shame is where we feel that we've done something or something happened to us that is out of alignment with our true identity. Okay. And we sometimes the shape of us, because we're not always standing right in front of a mirror. We can't always see us, but shame is one of those things that helps us to see, oh yeah, I don't like the way I felt after I did that. That's out of alignment with who I really am and my wholeness, my integrity. And so fear, anger, and shame are wonderful emotional compass tools. In order for us to pick up our power, Pluto in this area of life, whatever area of life Aquarius governs in your chart, and we'll get to those momentarily, in order for us to pick up our power, in many cases, we are going to need to stop, turn around, and face that which has made us afraid, that which has angered us, and that which has made us feel ashamed. Freedom and everything that Aquarius represents, that ability to take quantum steps, quantum leap forwards in consciousness. Freedom and everything Aquarius represents, our next step, a new life, is not possible without this step first. Okay. So these three emotions are very constructive if we can use them as a navigational tool, specifically because going toward and then through these feelings, as opposed to away from these, leads us into a life of true power, a life where we are clear we are not subject to or ruled by our circumstances, but instead our circumstances are subject to us. We govern our lives do not govern us. And that's a bit of direct coaching that's come from my spiritual coach, Yielded Vessels. I'm sure you guys have seen her on YouTube. I had her on the channel during Manifestation Mastery Conference last year. You can definitely check out her YouTube channel. But getting in front of our lives is the way that she says it. Instead of having our life lead us, kind of like the tail wagging the dog. So when we get to these areas of life for the 12 signs that this Pluto in Aquarius will impact, I want you to consider 4 questions. These are the 4 questions that you want to ask yourself. And you can then delineate what your work is to get into the new chapter and new season. Number 1, what scares me? What am I scared about in this area of life? You want to make a note of it and write it down when I call it out when we get there. Number 2, what makes me angry in this area of life? What am I pissed off about? Number 3, what makes me feel ashamed? What memories do I have about my behaviors or actions that I shudder when I remember them? And rather than run, shut down, hide, change the conversation, turn the radio up louder, what we need to do is ask ourselves, okay, and what can I do about this? Even if I don't like the action that there is for me to take, what can I do? Our power is right on the other side of the action required to resolve these feelings, or it's inside of the action required. And for many of us, not all, but for many of us, that action is an action that is potentially uncomfortable. And that's okay. It's okay to be uncomfortable. We are powerful enough to withstand discomfort. It's okay for us to be discomfort. We can survive and thrive through it. We have to remind ourselves of that. Okay. So if you need any help figuring this out for yourself, uh, you can always book a reading with me and we can open up where breakthrough is in your life on these subjects. Definitely get on my private list first because as soon as you get on, I will email you a 20% off code for a 1 hour reading with me. And then we'll be able to break down all of the issues and places, those 5 signs in your chart that Pluto is impacting. We'll be able to walk through them one by one and talk through, okay, here's how you're going from death to rebirth in each of these areas. All right. So there's that link to the private list. All right. Let's talk about collectively some places where we are getting Pluto really showing up. This is the fun part of the conversation. We went heavy. Now we're gonna go light because we can have it all. Let's get into this part. I was really excited to share some of these things with you because just honestly, we're barely 45 days in, 40 days into this new year. And my goodness, there have been so many news stories about the transformations that Pluto's movement has already ushered in for us collectively. And if you're seeing either similar stories in the country that you live in or your hometown and you want to share some of that in the chat or in the comment section, the more the merrier, because it certainly opens up all of our eyes collectively to what we're dealing with. Okay. So let me just open up these little news clips and then I'll share a screen and we can have a little fun chit chat about what's what. Let's open these. Are you guys enjoying this conversation so far? Is it illuminating for you? Are you guys noticing anything? Let me know in the chat or in the comments how you like this kind of content from me. I mentioned in the last lunar update that I'm thinking about changing up some stuff content wise. This is the kind of stuff I live to do. I love doing this. I'd love to know your thoughts about this kind of content. Okay, let's open these. Yes, I'm sure I want to open those. Please open them. Open says me. Preview. Amazing. Okay. Let's do this. Okay. Hide sidebar. Let's get to the beginning. There's the beginning. Okay. And let me new share screen. Okay, so we've got some changes in money that I mentioned. Click on the preview. So I mentioned to you guys that there's going to be some changes around money and business and institutions and all of that. So have a look here. You will see a news story that came out. I love this Instagram and YouTube channel called More Perfect Union. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy has signed a law making it easier to cancel your gym membership. The law requires gym subscriptions that can be bought online to offer an online cancellation option. Cancellation option must be easily accessible online or over email. That is absolutely an example of power going back into the hands of the people and out of the hands of big business, which big business, was Capricorn, the people, the collective of people, that's Aquarius. Okay. Let's see another story. Okay, here's a good one. Come back. Uh, why is this not letting me do what I want to do? Where is my power in this situation? Let me see. Table of contents. I want to see this one. Why are you not letting me see it? There we go. Okay. The news story here is we sat down with three of the five Democrats in Congress who won in Trump districts. They told us what the Democratic Party can learn from their victories. And the quote from the interview was, I think we're not winning because we don't respect working people. And so, whether you're Democrat, Republican, a Trump supporter, or not, that's not the point. I pulled this one specifically because Aquarius governs working people. Capricorn governs the business itself. And here we have recognition and realization from a politician that specifically says winning is linked to respecting working people and making sure that they're taken care of. And so that is Pluto in Aquarius. Let's go to the next one. I think it wants to play nice with me. There it is. Okay. Connecticut Governor Ned Lamont says his state will purchase 1 billion of residents' medical debt for just 6.5 million. And after he purchases it with their tax dollars, then he's going to cancel it all, abolishing medical debt for 250,000 people. This is a first time a state has forgiven medical debt at a massive scale. And so, again, we have this theme around power leaving the hands of the institution, power leaving the hands of the big business, that's Capricorn, and getting into the hands of people. And liberating or freeing people, that's Aquarius, right? And then we have this scorpionic theme and Plutonian theme of debt. And how are we dealing with debt? We've certainly had a lot of conversations here in the States about student loan debt, because to get an education here in the States, it could be expensive enough to have you under the weight of debt for at least 2, if not 3 decades, and unable to purchase a property or a home until you've completed paying that off. And so there's lots of conversations around how to make getting an education more affordable. And the starting point of the conversation so far has been a lot of people calling for the elimination of student loan debt. It's a conversation that's really struggled here in the United States, but we're also seeing Connecticut Governor Ned Lamont wanting to cancel medical debt. There's a similar bill on the table in New York State and in a few other states around the US. Okay. Here's another story. Ooh, I like this one. The CEOs of Johnson and Johnson and Merck are testifying in the Senate after being threatened with subpoenas. The topic, crucial medication being outrageously expensive. So expensive that three top pharma companies generated 200 billion with a B just last year. So again, we have some like the government starting to step in and say, hold up, big business. Y'all making enough money that first of all, you should maybe be paying some taxes on this. But second of all, how is it that you're making so much money, but the people who really need crucial medication don't have access to it? Again, how do we create access to the medication, taking power out of the hands of big corporate, that's Capricorn, and putting it into the hands of people who need it? Here's another story. Republicans are pushing for abortion bans in states all across the US, and they won't stop there. And so we saw this year, I think it was the 50th anniversary of a court case don't quote me on how many years it was, that we call in our country Roe versus Wade, that facilitated women's right to access an abortion through the medical system. We saw that get overturned last year as Pluto was, heaving his last heavy sighs in big corporate, big government, big institution control inside of Capricorn. But now with Pluto moving into Aquarius, my prediction is that freedom will return. Um, but certainly we saw again, Cancer, the opposite sign of Capricorn, specifically deals with women and mothers. We also have Leo, the sign that deals with children, right? So it could go a number of ways. Pluto goes to those willing to pick his power up. So if people want this access returned, they will actually need to do some work for it, right? The same way the people who didn't want this access available laid some foundation and some groundwork and exercised some power to overturn Roe v. Wade so that abortion access was no longer available. It will become necessary. And this is a very Plutonian lesson. You get what you work for, what you're willing to put your power into. And so we'll see which way this goes as we move into 2024 and 2025. We've got another story here about taxes, and that's a Scorpio thing. Tax season is underway, and thanks to your advocacy, it's about to get a lot easier for millions of taxpayers. In 2022, so 2022 was 2 years ago, Pluto was at some of the final degrees of Capricorn at that time when we fought for and helped pass an $80 billion investment in the IRS. It gave the IRS the tools it needed to create a free online way for taxpayers to file their federal returns without the need for paid services. So bypassing big corporate and stepping into direct relationship in the hands of the people around how their taxes get paid. Big story there. Leaving Capricorn, going into Aquarius. Here's a fun one. A judge has struck down Elon Musk's $55 billion pay package at Tesla after a shareholder, who happens to be an artist, by the way, Leo. We talked about Leo and the arts being connected, creativity being connected. A shareholder challenged the outrageous amount of the pay package as excessive. The ruling would massively reduce Elon Musk's wealth and go further. And so the quote here from the project director at the Institute for Policy Studies is, "It's an incredibly important decision because it establishes that there is such a thing as excessive compensation." So remember when I was saying power goes into where Pluto goes, power flows and follows. Elon Musk really came into a lot of his wealth between that 2008 and last year, that kind of period where the power was in the sign that governed big corporate money, Capricorn. Now Pluto is leaving that sign. Ooh, and he is taking no prisoners. He's like, listen, y'all, changes. Knock, knock, changes here. Buckle up. Here we have a story about teachers. So teacher strikes are illegal in the state of Massachusetts, meaning if you are a teacher, you are not permitted to strike for better pay, better conditions. It's illegal. However, teachers in Newton, Massachusetts felt like they were out of options, so they just walked out. And they've been on strike for more than a week. And the union has been fined for their strike $375,000. Just for reference, if you don't know, most teachers in the US make between $40,000 and $60,000. That fine will keep going up $50,000 every day until the strike ends. And so, again, Pluto goes to the people who are willing to pick up their power. Do these teachers want to be on strike? No. Is the issue of being on strike when it's technically illegal very confronting? 100%. Does it feel good? Absolutely not. Are they uncomfortable? Most likely. 8 days ago, it was very winter in Massachusetts. So to be outside and be striking, doing something illegal, I guarantee you these teachers are going to get what they want. Pluto will reward them. 9 days ago, a Wendy's franchise in Pennsylvania has been fined $300,000 for 766 child labor violations. Here's what the violations include: not giving breaks to 81 kids, 18 of those children working without permits, and 10 working without their parents' knowledge. Child labor violations went up 50% in 2023. Shame, shame. Wendy's, if you didn't know, is a hamburger franchise here in the United States. Samantha Perez says she's a teacher and she's at her wits' end. Kylie says, shout out to the teachers. Maison Russe left the corporate world. Yes, absolutely. So you guys are starting to really get the themes here. Um, Walgreens and CVS are becoming unbearable for customers and workers. So if you're not inside the US, Walgreens and CVS are our kind of local pharmacies, our drugstores, the place where you go to fill a prescription, get a Christmas card, buy toilet paper, and maybe pick up some candy on your way out. It's that kind of store. Okay. So this fall, the pharmacists walked out of stores nationwide during what was called Pharmageddon. Pharmacy workers are fed up and they are organizing to save the industry. They feel like I learned this morning that doctors in particular got compensated $250 per medical intervention that they provided post 2020. So let's just say that you were able to get 100 people to take the medical intervention. That year, you got a $25,000 bonus. We're about to see that change. So More Perfect Union goes on to say, here is a map of the United States where it's only states where someone making 15 US dollars an hour can afford a 2-bedroom apartment, which is what you would need if you have kids and you're an adult and you have a child or more than one child. At some point, they need their own bedroom and you need your own bedroom. So in 2021, if you made $15 an hour, you could have a 2-bedroom apartment in West Virginia, Arkansas, and Puerto Rico. That was 2021. Here is a map of the United States where someone making $15 an hour can afford a 2-bedroom apartment. And you see there's nowhere that is possible in 2024. So we're definitely seeing some raises in the acceptable minimum wage. It's kind of happening state by state. It may continue to work state by state if the country goes in one direction, which returns more freedom to states to do what they want and govern how they wish. But if the country moves in a different direction, we may see at the federal level a mandate come down that specifically says everywhere minimum wage is certainly much higher than $15 an hour. Okay. There is a senator named Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, known as AOC. She sat down to do an interview about Trump, child labor, and worker uprising sweeping the country. And here's what she had to say. I think labor movements are resurging in a way that actually threatens the status quo. Hey, if Aquarius does nothing, it threatens the status quo. Those of you who are Aquariuses, let me see it in the chat. If you're an Aquarius, shout out to you. Happy birthday. This is your new moon tomorrow. But you are actually like, this is one of the gifts of Aquarian energy. It threatens the status quo, it breaks up the monotony, it demands change and transformation and evolution. This is a very empowering period of time for people, right? And so Ocasio-Cortez goes on to say, when you fight power, power fights back. And she's not wrong, but hey, the power is in the hands of the people in Aquarius. It's in the hands of the new, the next, the quantum leap forward. Intuit, the owner of TurboTax, now we're back talking about the Scorpio component, spent more on lobbying in 2023 than they ever have in their history. Lobbying in the United States. I don't know if you guys have that in the countries you live in. Um, Lobbying is when a company will spend money on one of our lawmakers, either putting money into their campaign or providing um, money for some of their agenda items in exchange for that lawmaker being friendly toward that company's practices. So it's mm, it's going to sound slanted, but my opinion of lobbying is that it is legal, mm, legal manipulation, I guess you could say, of the law. That's my opinion. There's a far more neutral definition of lobbying available on the internet. I'll leave you to go find that. But it's definitely a legal way in which corporations can influence the outcomes of laws that impact them and their companies. And there's certain regulations around it. Absolutely. There are regulations around it, but I think we're going to see that the people, the Aquarius, the disruption of the status quo is going to start to make some demands and limitations around what big corporate Capricorn can and cannot do when it comes to lobbying. Okay. Um, TurboTax, the company a lot of people use to pay their taxes, oppose the President Biden plan to create a free system for people to file their taxes directly. And just so you're aware, if you're using TurboTax, it costs roughly $350 minimum just to file your taxes. I think it actually costs more now. That was like kind of a pre-inflation rate. I stopped using them. I need to work with an accountant at this point, but um, just to get your money to the IRS and have the IRS know that you are paying tax, you have to pay this like pass-through fee of 350 or more dollars. And so this company has been in opposition of letting people file their taxes directly because it would impact their profits. And so here's the word on that. They were lobbying to stop people from passing them by and letting people not pay to file. That company failed, and the IRS is rolling out free tax filing. Amazing. We have more on children and working. So, a Florida House committee has approved a GOP bill to let bosses schedule 16 and 17-year-olds for over 8 hours on a school night and over 30 hours a week. In other words, you could work full time and go to school full time as a teenager. One Republican said, we've been weakening our society, and the remedy is to have kids start working full time. Wild, right? Isn't that wild? I don't think that's going to go anywhere, but this is the conversation as Pluto jumps into Aquarius. And the conversation is, how do we get more people more freedom? It's so here's the thing to understand, right? As we are talking about this Pluto and Aquarius situation, right? As we're having this conversation, Aquarius governs the unconventional, it governs freedoms, it governs rights. Yeah. Capricorn isn't all bad. Capricorn wants to protect things. It likes to establish traditions and rules and boundaries. Capricorn Aquarius is like, what boundaries? Why do we need boundaries? Who wants to have boundaries when you can have freedom? And so the direction in which, things may fall, it's not all good and it's not all bad either. And so it's very important in your country, in my country, wherever we happen to be while we're listening to this, that we are participating in the process because we are the people. Aquarius is the collective. We have to participate in the process of shaping the direction of the socio-political and professional world in ways that work for us. Pluto lands, power lands in the hands willing to wield it. If you're not willing to wield it and somebody else is, they're going to get what they want. So participation is really key. Here's another corporate story. I really love this one. When it comes to junk fees, cable companies are some of the worst offenders. I don't know if y'all call it cable in your country, but it's definitely the service via which we can all watch our television shows here in the States outside of streaming services. They pile additional fees onto their advertised prices, ratcheting up your costs over time while making it difficult to reach a customer service representative. That's not funny, but it's kind of funny. Then, if you get fed up and choose to cancel your cable, once you do reach someone on the phone, they hit you with early termination or billing cycle fees, forcing you to pay for services you choose not to use. The fees are deemed predatory. They are against the public interest and their days are numbered. So, the Federal Communications Commission has proposed some new rules to stop cable operators from imposing unfair fees on consumers. Similar rules were proposed this year with phone companies. I don't know if you guys have ever looked at your phone bill, your cell phone bill, and been like, what is all these random fees and why do they seem to fluctuate? For, certain 50 cents more this month, $1 less next month, $3 more the following month. Like, what are the quote unquote fees, right? So there's one on the table for cellular. Here's one for cable. This rule that they are proposing is in what we call in the United States a public comment period, which means that we, the people, Aquarius, are allowed to comment on what we think and what we need and what we want the law to look like. And More Perfect Union does a good job of linking where you can comment. But while comment period is going on, Comcast and AT&T, some of our biggest cable networks here in the United States, are lobbying, there's that word again, very hard against it because they want to keep their profits. Amazing. Okay. The Biden administration is ending bank overdraft fees as we know them. So if you guys have ever overdrawn your checking or your savings account, your bank account, and then you get dinged with this $30 fee for letting the amount go below zero, under a new Consumer Financial Protection Bureau rule, overdraft fees at large banks would be strictly regulated and capped as low as $3. Low-income Americans will save billions. I love that. So there's some good stuff happening here. Um, Here's another one. Remember, we're talking about Cancer, governing families and teams. So immediately after winning the college football national championship, Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh, and so he's a top coach at one of the top universities that plays college football here in the United States, called for the organization's athletes to unionize and for players to receive a bigger share of the billions that college sports brings in. For too long, star players who generate tons of revenue have gone hungry and have struggled to get by. Sometimes they struggle to pay tuition if they're not there on a full scholarship. Sometimes, they don't have all the money they need for materials and supplies to even be in school. But meanwhile, because of the broadcasting of the college sports, the university itself is making millions of dollars. Um, so this issue has been ongoing and it's time for a resolution where players see the fruits of their labors. Many of the athletes are from low income, middle class, working class families. And not all of them, but some of them are. And so this would really help them complete their college education. Massachusetts decided to tax the rich. Again, this is a very Aquarius theme, right? Hands in the power of the people. Get this money back in the hands of the people. Now they have an extra $1.5 billion surplus in their annual budget to spend. It was a 4% tax on incomes over $1 million. The state can now use that money on free public school meals. Again, Aquarius deals with collectives and groups of people and looking out for the collective. And what does the collective need? Free community college and public transport. So it'll enhance and enrich the city altogether. Um, let's see. Okay, so it's another story about fees. New York City has launched a plan that could eliminate over $2 billion in medical debt for 500,000 low-income New Yorkers, similar to what I think it was Governor Lamont did in Connecticut. So eliminating debt again. Um, let's go back. American Express promotes Glenda McNeil to Chief Partner Officer, the first person to hold the position at the company. And so the explanation of the role is that her job is to oversee strategic partnerships to grow the company's um, annual revenue. And so partnerships and collaborations, all Aquarius. Aquarius really works well in group settings. It's friendships, it's the people who assist us in getting where we want to go. And so this is a new role, again, new kind of things in the world of work, and we're quantum leaps ahead in thought and in the way we think and structure business. This role called Chief Partner Officer. And here's this woman who's going to execute on that. We have a story about Wisconsin residents having problems with their landlords. No surprise there. Capricorn governs homes. I mean, Cancer governs homes, but Capricorn is big business, the opposite sign. And so here, Wisconsin lawmakers keep passing pro-landlord changes to tenant laws. Residents' number one complaint last year was their landlords, and 1 in 5 lawmakers who voted for anti-renter bills own or manage rental properties, according to a 2019 report by the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. At least 5 lawmaker landlords sponsored the pro-landlord bills. So we have protests going on in Wisconsin where people are saying we need to do something new about housing, something new about laws, something new about profits so that it works for all of us, not just some of us. And again, that's Aquarius working hard to support the collective. So that ends that portion of today's conversation. I hope that brought a little levity and a little understanding to kind of the way things are working. Duchess says hers is 120 pounds a month. I think that is her cell phone bill. Hopefully they'll eliminate fees in the UK for you as well. Samantha says cell service in English is so much slower than the US too. I get 3G here. I haven't had 3G since 2012. Why are y'all on 3G? You're trying to get us up on 6G over here. Flower and Forgiveness is Michigan University. Rain says, I've definitely been feeling like the younger generations are going to continue to push and demand this change for the people. I think you're right. We're going to see a lot of leadership coming from people who are in the under 30 group. I look forward to watching the years to come, despite how scary it is. I look forward to it too. There's a lot of hope here. Samantha says, that's mine too, but when I was in Arizona, I could choose from many different companies that provide the cable and the Wi-Fi. Very nice. Really cool. So you guys have been seeing this stuff? Yeah. Are you guys noticing how these themes are working based on the stories I just showed you? What did you learn? What are you noticing? And I'm going to cue up the section of our conversation that is all about how to pick up this power. What did you learn? Dee Dee says there's lots of EMF from the 5G. Yes, there is. There can be electromagnetic frequencies. Absolutely. If you want to have a look at some of this in your own chart, definitely get on my private list first. That way you can save some money. There's a 20% off savings coupon for your first 1 hour reading on the private list that I'll send to you as soon as you sign up. It's free to get that coupon, and it just makes getting that 1 hour reading more accessible if it's your first time. Okay. But yeah, I'm sure you guys are seeing similar stories in your own countries or your own state or province or territory. If you want to share some of those, I'd love to read some, so feel free. Samantha says, yes, the government is trying super hard to hold on to power. That is definitely one insight. Absolutely. And I think the news story from the interview from Senator Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she quoted and said that too. When you fight power, power fights back. But like those Wisconsin teachers, man, not Wisconsin teachers, it's the Wisconsin renters and the Massachusetts teachers. When you're fed up, you just fed up. You got to do what you got to do. I'm curious if you guys are seeing other themes. If you want to drop that in the chat, that would be amazing. Let's see. Okay. So, where is this at? Okay, collectively, as we get into the more personalized parts of the conversation, one of the things you want to tie this into in your own private life um, is that because Pluto creates such significant endings, it's important to understand that there can be a change of the people pertaining to the house that I'll call out in a moment, the patterns and places in your life according to that house that this change is unfolding in. There could be a changing of the guard and a changing of the scene, where one set of people or behavioral patterns or places and circumstances will be replaced by a new set attuned to you taking on your power in this location in your life. Now, depending on your relationship to power, this can feel enriching, empowering, grounding, motivating, very orienting to your inner compass. It can feel a bit like F it. I have no more F's left, and I just got to do what I got to do. With some degree of departure from other people's expectation of you and a willingness to just let people down so that you can stop letting yourself down. There can also be a sense of letting other people take care of themselves because you need to take care of you. Within this, there can be a burgeoning sense of independence. Welcome, Faye Smith. Enjoy the broadcast. Alternatively, you might be feeling a sense of feeling totally confronted by this energy, like you're being really pushed around by life, and none of the choices you have are choices you would make on your own. None of the options are paths that you would want to walk down, despite the fact that there are some obvious doors that are the open door for you, it can feel like, okay, anything but that door. Please don't make me do that. I don't want to do that. No. And that can lead to a sense of stagnation, frustration. Like maybe you just need to wait this out and just cover your head and hope some things about the world, the environment, your life just maybe kind of change on their own without you having to do anything. I'm really curious uh if you got which camp you guys are in. Um, how do you feel about Pluto's changes? I'm really curious if you are in Camp A, which is feeling very empowered, or Camp B, which is feeling frustrated and stuck. Uh, I'm going to put a little poll there in the chat, and then you guys can vote and let me know how you're feeling, which camp you fall in. If you happen to be in that second group where you are feeling, frustrated and stuck, like you don't like any of the choices that are facing you, maybe even blocked by some of the changes, if you're feeling that way. If you're in that second group, here are some key things I want you to remember and really take away from our conversation today. Life changes as we change, including the available opportunities in our environment. It always starts with us, but especially now. And because of Uranus's amplification of Jupiter simultaneously this year to this Pluto movement, we'll come back on a different broadcast and talk about that. This is the year to make a complete change, to break away, to spread our wings. So if you're feeling that frustration, that stuckness, this is the time to make a change. Yeah. Yeah, Samantha, you can be both. Some people are saying they feel both. Rain says she feels both. Dee Dee says she feels both. Awesome. I put a little poll so you can click the button up at the top as well and let me know how you're feeling there. You can also just type it in, share what you're feeling and what you're noticing in the chat. Love to Travel says Camp A. Dee Dee says it depends on the day and how stable I am. Also depends on what my hormones are doing. The second thing I want you to remember, life changes as we change is number one. Number two, there's a lot of things that we cannot control. Pluto is about that power and controlled, right? But we can control how we choose to perceive what's happening in our lives. How we can choose how we perceive our old choices. Are we perceiving them with shame or with compassion? And we can choose how we are perceiving and the story we're telling about what happened. We can tell a victim story or a lesson story. And we can then choose how we respond to what we're perceiving. We can tell ourselves the victim or the victor story. We can look at the challenge and decree, that's a word I got from my coach, Yielded Vessel, that it empowers us and enriches us, setting us up for a brighter future. Or we can decree, the sky is falling and everything is wrong, and then make choices based on the idea that everything is wrong and the sky is falling. I don't recommend that path. It really, you still have to come back and make the choices. So you can just skip all of that. Um, so with such extraordinary manifestation energy available this spring, waiting and seeing is going to be the worst thing that we can do. Creating how we want things to be is the best thing that we can do. Even if we don't know the answer, taking the next right step toward the next best thing. And your natal chart can reveal what that is for you personally. Sometimes there is a scheduled date in the future when the answers are scheduled to be much clearer. And if that's the case, the current work to make that crystallize and the right time is still required, at the right time is still required on our part and can absolutely be found in your chart. So I've talked to a number of people, for example, who know that something is shifting in their work world. They know they're ready to do something different, but they're not sure what. And I can definitely see, based on the angle of the transiting planets to their personal planets and what houses those personal planets govern, that they are on a moving train. This train has left the station, but it is not at the destination. And there will be more answers forthcoming. I can see that in their chart, that they're not at the place where there are answers yet. But that doesn't mean do nothing. That doesn't mean wait. There's actual work that we need to be doing while we're on the train so that we are prepared when the train drops us off at our destination. And your chart can show what that work is. Power. Here's the third thing I want you to remember. If you're in camp stuck, it's totally okay. Power is actually a very neutral thing. It's not good. It ain't bad. It's simply, like I said earlier, the ability to do and the capacity to act. We do not have to be upset about how we used or didn't use our power in the past. We can let that go. We can be in today. We can act today, now, and we can give ourselves grace of a clean slate, and we can start from today. Okay. Uh, and then the fifth thing and the last thing I want you to remember, if you're in camp stuck, and it's a great, fine place to be, we have the power to handle whatever life throws our way or whatever we're working through, whether we perceive it as self-created or somebody threw us a monkey wrench and did something that upset our apple cart. We can still create from that. It's our birthright as divine creators incarnate. We will not die if something we try or experiment with doesn't go the exact way we want it to. We'll gather new information from that place. We'll regroup. And if we need to, we'll begin again. That's the nature of Pluto. It gives us the chance to phoenix no matter what. And as long as we're still breathing, there's still another chance, still another shot at work, with community and love, with travel, with housing. There's always another chance as long as we're still breathing. And so I really want you to understand how powerful this moment is for you to own that your life is in your hands and you can make it be the shape you want it to be. Yeah? Okay. So if you're stuck, just book the reading, look at where there's movement and what there is to do at this time. And like I said, join that private list so that you get that code for 20% off for the 1 hour before you book if you're a first timer with me. All right, let's take it sign by sign. As promised, we're going to go Aries to Pisces. And somebody will, I'm sure, timestamp this below the video where we start and end so that you can come back and re-listen for your sign. If you have to go, totally get it. But if you want to re-listen later on in the year, it'll be here. Okay. That's right, Kristen Day, in transition from one state to the next, like state being a circumstance. Sky Poet says they're feeling both, but more stuck. Awesome. You guys are all doing so good. Cool. I love it. So 77% of you said you're feeling empowered and grounded. 22% of you said you're feeling frustrated and stuck. And then just based on the chat conversation, I'm guessing that if we were to break that down further, we're probably kind of split between some folks who feel completely stuck and completely grounded, like there's a mix. So if you happen to be an Aries or an Aries rising, this big change from Pluto to Capricorn will impact your 10th and 11th house. And so, or 11th position from your sun. For Aries and Aries rising, you can expect that there will be changes in your work world. What you're doing for work, how you're doing it for work, where you are working as the location, the industry itself may change, your role in a company may change. All of this is up for an ending and then some integration and learning and then a new beginning. It is directly tied in part to your money, but also tied into your willingness to pick up your power when it comes to your career. Some of you, I've spoken to many of you who actually are transitioning into owning a business for the first time. And we've had conversations about the necessity. You may be a very talented massage therapist, but if you don't know how to run the business and you're not just as talented as at the business side, it's going to be a challenge to keep yourself financially sustainable. And so, really leaning into where is my mentorship? Where is my growth? Where is my learning when it comes to starting a business? Some of you also are leaning into new friendships. You're learning about what it means to embrace people who are maybe quite a bit different than what it is you previously had in the world of friendships. You may have noticed if you're an Aries or an Aries rising that some of the friends that you had in the last segment of your life, you've outgrown them. They've outgrown you. Life is starting to carry you in different directions. It'll be very important as an Aries or an Aries rising to remember that you do not need to burn bridges to cross them or slam doors to walk out of them. You can acknowledge that you're in a different place, set new boundaries, and move forward, allowing people to march to the beat of their own drum as well. Okay, so that is my Aries and Aries rising folks. For Taurus and the Taurus rising people, we are talking about 9 and 10 for you. So that is faith, hope, and optimism. And it is also your potential and long distance travel. It is also publishing. It's part of your axis of PR and marketing. In addition to that, we're also looking at picking up your power. There's a release in the areas I just named and a pickup of power in the arena that has to do with your career. And so some of you are needing to step into some learning about what is it, if you're definitely wanting to move into the arena of running a business, you're going to have to learn how to play the marketing game and the sales game so that you, again, can also be financially sustainable and successful. This process for some of you may include some travel. Some of you may have been in long periods of travel and now you're coming to rest, coming to find a home for the first time. It's a wonderful time and a wonderful experience for you to begin the process of trusting yourself and having a little faith in yourself. And where you want something to happen, but you don't know how to make it happen, this is a great time for some continuing education for you. So definitely take that on if the shoe fits. Take on the continuing education. Now is absolutely the time to do it because it will set you up for greater success and prosperity in your career sector, certainly later this year as Jupiter moves into Gemini, but definitely all of next year as well, where you need to have that education. Don't hesitate to reach out and get it. Okay. Gemini and Gemini rising. We are going to do you next. Just a sign of our twins there. For you, Gemini, this closing out is in the house of transformation, secrets, shape shifting, what we call other people's money. So some of you are wrapping up some debt, closing it out, or closing, maybe you're closing out your credit cards. You don't want to spend any more money. Some of you are also coming into the completion of maybe running out of like alimony or inheritance money, and it's time for you to start to think about your value in the world and earning money in a new way. There's definitely a completion of a cycle around your being as a sexual self. as well, where you understood yourself as a sexual being in one way. You may have a sexual awakening or opening at this time in a completely new way as a Gemini or Gemini rising. In addition to that, there's a period of solidification that's about to happen here with your identity as Pluto moves into Aquarius. Pluto's movement into Aquarius will assist you with becoming a much more powerful version of yourself, where you understand who you are and who you're not, and you solidify your creative authority over your life and a lot of your boundaries with people. Some of this is going to ask you to have greater faith in yourself as you begin to navigate this next chapter of your life, and a greater understanding of the things about you that you have outgrown, that no longer serve you, that you can leave behind as part of the old you and walk away from without needing to experience shame. You learned what you needed to learn, and now that you know better, you'll do better. So, with that, Gemini, may the force be with you. You got this. Let's talk about Cancer and Cancer rising. Yeah. Do we have any Cancers in the chat? Who's a Cancer here? For you guys, you're completing a cycle in love and relationship and connection. It could be a pattern in the way that you operate in relationship, a pattern in the type of person that you date. It could be even the completion of a marriage or relationship itself. It could also be a lifestyle around relationship where you may have been a serial dater, or serial monogamist, or a lifelong kind of flirt or single person. This is when you may feel an added sense of pressure to wrap up the chapter in your relationship identity that you previously had and step into a new identity when it comes to relationship. There could also be a level of sexual empowerment that opens up for you here. Certainly a level of needing to manage next level finances. So, whether we're talking credit, debt, taxes, inheritances, loans, some of you, be a little careful with your spending, because with Pluto moving into Aquarius in this way, you're going to want to be very strategic about how you pull down money, pull equity out of a house. Do you get a second mortgage? This kind of thing. So that whatever you're getting additional money for, borrowing against an asset or credit, you're doing it in a way that is actually going to empower you and not sink your ship, not get you in over your head. It's going to be really important for you to pay attention strategically to what you're doing financially for Cancers and Cancer risings. Okay. There also may be a sense of closure and ending for you, Cancer and Cancer rising, where it may be vague, it may be nebulous, but a sense of like, wow, yeah, I'm just not the same person I used to be anymore. And so give yourself time if you, Kylie, give yourself time if you need time to work through any sense of closure and completion in your life. It will really help you to grieve if grief is part of the equation for you, so that you can let go with a clean heart and a clean slate. Okay. Leo. And Leo rising, you are stepping into your empowerment era when it comes to relationships. And so you may feel this burgeoning sense of needing to deal with something in the world of relationship. This can go a number of ways. If you have been codependent and, the kind of person who really struggles to be outside of a relationship, Pluto in Aquarius is going to challenge you to know what it is to work on your own. If you have been the kind of, and to pick up your power in relationship so that you can come into relationship as a whole person, not as a person who needs another person to feel whole. If you've been the opposite, Leo, where in relationship you've always felt like overwhelmed by connection and really struggling and drowning either in your emotion or the other person's needs, or feeling like you're going to lose your freedom in relationship, this is going to challenge you around that. You may have an encounter with a person who you're like, whoa, it is worth examining this for. This may be a cognitive distortion. Maybe I should have a look at this. Maybe I can have my freedom and have a relationship. You will also find that learning how to communicate powerfully with your partners at this time will assure that you have both your sovereignty and your creative authority while also having love at the same time. So, changes in relationship patterns, regardless of the kind of relationship that you've been in, and changes to who you are and how you show up in relationships, that you can be a more empowered version of yourself, is what is going on for the Leos and the Leo rising.